Hello, everyone, and welcome to the We Win podcast powered by Accelerator Africa and the Human Pattern Institute. We are so glad to have you here with us today. I am your host, Lolita Ejiofor, and here's a question for you. What does it mean to lead, not just with excellence, but with the full weight of who you are created to be? Today, we welcome a young lady who has learned to answer that question in boardrooms, in billion-dollar transactions, and in the quiet spaces where identity is forged. Ada Onanuga is an executive leader with 13 years experience across corporate and investment banking and real estate financing across Africa. And she leads with the conviction she has come to live with, that identity and leadership are inseparable. Ada's career spans high-stake capital structuring and institutional leadership, including leading multi-award winning deals. A CFA charter holder and fellow of the National Institute of Credit Administration, Ada brings both financial rigor and human-centered leadership to every decision. But Ada is also a woman of deep faith. She is a speaker, writer, and the author of Awaken the Voice Within. Through the White Honeycomb Collective, she explores faith, identity, obedience, and spiritual formation as lived experience. She helps leaders navigate high-pressure environments with integrity and courage, building leadership cultures rooted in trust and values. Ada knows the cost of losing one's voice, the discipline required to recover it, and the sacred responsibility of carrying it well. We welcome Ada to the We Win podcast. Hello, Ada.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, and you?
Awesome. We're really happy to have you here with us today on the We Win podcast.
I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Ada, you've written that identity and leadership are inseparable, but the world of investment banking often demands a very specific kind of armor, tough, hyper-rational, and guarded. For a long time, did you feel a tension between the posture required to survive in the boardroom and the vulnerability your faith calls you to embody? Did you ever feel you had to adopt a mask of invulnerability just to command respect in the room?
Okay, so this brings to mind a clip I watched on The Diary of a CEO. There's this lady called Evie Pomporas. She wrote a book called Becoming Bulletproof. And I remember being very struck by what she said because I did not agree with her. She was talking about an experience or a conversation she'd had with a boss of hers who essentially said that when you're coming into a team as a leader, it is better for you to be somewhat, I guess the word is removed, or to just embody that position of authority and, hierarchy, so to speak, to start. And then so that there is an establishment of a power dynamic, or it's clear who the leader or the boss is. And then over time, when it's clear that people understand the authority and your position, and you see that there is respect and emotional intelligence, you can then start to have maybe some kind of a less, hierarchical relationship, so to speak. And I struggled with that because naturally I'm an outgoing person. I'm not really one for levels and I'm not. And perhaps it's a function of the kinds of environments that I've worked in, right? But that has never really been me. And as I've grown in my career, it's been a struggle to figure out, okay, how do I want to come across here? Do I want to be stern and I'm the boss?
Yeah.
Or do I want to be more how do we kind of relate human to human, but with an understanding that there is a responsibility that I have to to hold in this position of the leader and not I am sitting on you as a leader. And so it was a struggle to figure out, okay, when do we want to come across as I'm the boss? And when do we want to come across as, well, I'm the boss, but I'm also a human being, right? And I remember I was having a conversation with someone and I said, I've just decided that I am going to be myself.
Right.
And I am not going to pretend to be something or someone else because I'm concerned that someone will not respect the authority that comes with my position. If you mess up, anything you see, you collect like that. But I will start with giving people the benefit of the doubt. I will assume that you are emotionally intelligent enough to understand what the right thing is what the right thing is to do in that context. And if you don't, best believe that I will correct you. And it's happened even recently. I had to have a courageous or confrontational conversation with someone who is my report in the office. And, I had just come in, I was very outgoing, and it seemed to me like that was being taken for someone that could be kind of taken for granted, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So over my career, I've grown to accept that this is who I am and this is how I will show up. But if you choose not to act correctly, you will also, a necessary boundary will be drawn.
Yeah. So I completely resonate. I mean, that completely resonates with me, because you sort of struggle with what people expect you to be. The kind of leader people want you to be is this stern, no nonsense type of woman.
Yeah.
But ultimately, your mask does drop. You do find yourself being yourself as you continue along, and that whole facade doesn't last. So I think you've got the right approach, which is being yourself and then knowing those boundaries to set.
Yeah.
In one of your recent Instagram videos, you shared that for years you learned to keep the peace and soften yourself and be easy to accept. Investment banking is typically not a place for softness. Looking back, can you identify a specific moment in your career where your instinct to keep the peace actually hurt you professionally?
An example actually comes to mind, and I wrote about it in the book, actually. So for context, right, I didn't start in investment banking. My career trajectory has been quite atypical. So typically people start as an analyst or an associate in investment banking, then a vice president, and maybe a director, and then you become like a head of a business, or you become like, it depends. It's different depending on the organization, right? But that's the typical trajectory. So maybe you're fresh out of school, you've done a few summer internships, and then you get a full-time role as an analyst. You do that for a few years, you become an associate. Depending on the organization, you be junior, senior, it depends, right? So I did my youth service in an oil and gas company for a year, came out, I was in like a bank training school. I knew it wasn't going to work out because let's just say the values did not align.
Okay.
And so I was there for a few months, and then I got on this international graduate training program at an international financial institution. I worked there for 6 years, and I was kind of all over the place. I was in credit, I was a business analyst at some point, I was an assistant relationship manager, I did a few stints in back office. And then because I was on a rotation program, so I worked in global markets, I worked in operations. So I literally worked almost everywhere from a corporate banking perspective. And then I moved to another organization, and there I was also I worked in the relationship management team for, I want to say 2 years. And then one day the MD moves me to investment banking. So it was a job I wanted to do. I just thought that ship had sailed for me. Now, that story of how that happened is probably for another podcast, but let's just say it was God, right? And so I moved into that team. And so you can imagine at that point, I was a vice president, or what you would call a senior manager in Nigerian banking system. And that's quite senior. And I was I was working on transactions with analysts and associates who actually had more investment banking experience than I did. And so I was in a place where I was learning from people that I was kind of supposed to be giving work. And it was very uncomfortable for me. I didn't know how to, it took me a while to figure out how to maneuver that, because I was very used to like knowing what to do and then doling out the work. And then, so that experience, and we'll probably talk about it later, was very humbling. God used it to break me down and to build me back up. And so with that context, my line manager at the time, great guy. I've actually been very blessed. I've had wonderful managers. I've both male and female. I've been very blessed in that regard. And so the thing is, because I wasn't sure of how to maneuver, like I'm the kind of person that if I'm given a task, I need to know how to do it from A to Z. At the time, I did not function well in a case where I was still figuring things out, especially with live deals. We're talking billions of dollars here, right? I was very much not I was very uncomfortable. And so when he would give feedback, my boss at the time was let's just say he was very dogged. He was unrelenting in his desire to make sure that I would be the best I could possibly be. But the manner in which he gave me feedback was not the best. But because I was not quite sure of myself, and when I heard like feedback in terms of areas where I could improve, all I could see was all the ways I was falling short. And that had never really happened to me before. I think I was just a smidge arrogant. It was difficult for me. So when he would give feedback, I'd want to hurry it along. And so anything he would say, I'd say, okay. I wouldn't push back. Yeah. I wouldn't perhaps give context, because I just wanted the conversation to be over. And then, I talk about this extensively in the book, but something happened that when you get to the point where the cost of staying the same is more than the cost of changing, I was just done. And so I remember I booked a meeting in his calendar for the next day. It was a Friday, I remember. And so I booked a meeting for the Monday morning. And I rehearsed what I was going to say. And that's why I remember exactly what I said. And I told him, I called his name, I said, the manner in which you give me feedback is injurious. Now, I didn't know at the time how he would respond, but I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I was surprised, pleasantly so, by his reaction, right? He was like, yes, let's have these conversations. And because I was willing to push back, it turns out that the things that we were having a back and forth, what he was trying to give me critique on, was just a pure miscommunication. And it seemed like this had happened many times before. But because I was unwilling to have that conversation, I just kept leaving feeling, you don't know what you're doing, you're not good enough, you're falling short, you're not good at this thing. How can you be supposed to be managing or doling out work to people who know more about this thing than you do? I know the funny thing is now, it's even worse in my new role, because I'm looking after like an entire business, and what do I know about IT? What do I but that experience taught me how to be comfortable as a leader in an environment where I may not necessarily know what is going on, but I'm clear on what my strengths are, and I'm not really trying to prove myself to anybody anymore. And so because I've gotten to this place by the grace of God, I'm more comfortable in uncertainty. Yeah.
I think you're more comfortable in being authentic and vulnerable.
Yes.
And showing that you don't necessarily have all the skills.
Correct.
But you may as well surround yourself with people who do.
1000%. And the thing they say, I used to be a huge, offender in this area. How when you show a job description to a man, if he can do 40% of it, he will tell you that he can do this job. If you show a JD to a woman and she can do 60% of it, she will tell you that she's not qualified.
Absolutely.
You know how the word for 2026 is audacity? Anyone that comes to me, I don't care if it's 10%, you will learn it on the job. Apply.
That is the right attitude.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah. And I like how your journey went as well to get to where you are. It's like cutting teeth. You had to go through different sections of the finance industry, and here you are in investment banking. And then also having the audacity to speak to your boss and say, hey, I don't like how you give me this feedback. And he even learnt about himself in that way.
He did. And that's the thing, going back to my point about having good bosses, I have good models for how to show up leading people. I also have good models how to not show up leading people. But thankfully, I've had more of the former than the latter.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. You share that at 22, your self-esteem was on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Because you tied your worth to how intelligent you were. This is a trap for many high achievers. When you are the smartest person in the room, it feels good. How did you untangle your worth from your competence without losing your edge as a top-tier performer?
That's a deep question. The first thing I would say is that we're not there yet. It's not a destination. It's a journey. And I get better at it every day. Now, it took me a very long time to distinguish between worth and competence. I don't know if it's a first daughter syndrome. I don't know if it's a first daughter in an Igbo family syndrome, but you tie your worth to what you can deliver. And so, you don't hear to you're such a good girl, and you're a good girl because you did this. I know with my daughter, I try my best so much to not make it about what she is. So when I tell her I love her, and sometimes she asks me, I say, because you're my daughter. It's not because you did any, I don't want her to feel like she gets validation and love and recognition from what she has done as opposed to who she is, which goes back to the conversation on worth versus competence. Right. And the fact that there is inherent value just because of who you are, not because of what you can or cannot do. So I had to go through, I think the year was 2023. I started this journey of God kind of took me up by the hand and took me on this journey of identity deconstruction and reconstruction. Because he was like, you don't really know who you are anymore. And I'm not sure you ever did. And so we need to go on a journey to really figure out what is going on. And it was that journey that essentially became the book that I wrote, right? So it was work. Look, it was inner work. It was reading my Bible. It was praying. It was therapy. It was counseling. It was reading books. It was watching podcasts. It was about being intentional about what I was exposing myself to, my ears, my eyes. It was cutting off certain relationships, some very painful, some a relief, some both. And this all kind of happened when my mom was sick, right? And I talk about that in the book as well. I think there was something about looking at her journey and how things played out that it was kind of like a real life test case of what happens when you allow your value come from or be externally determined, right? And I think it's the case for most women in my mother's generation, and even in our generation. We're trying to unlearn, but it's a process and it's a journey. So for me, like I said, doing all those things and then also going through that process, what it helps you to do is that when you find yourself, or when I found myself going back to learned patterns and learned behavior, I would have to catch myself in the moment. So for example, if we go back to the conversation I told you I had with my boss, after that conversation, it was like, okay, critique means I can do better. It does not mean I am not enough.
Right.
So when I hear, okay, this needs to be looked at again, or this needs to be done, or what about this idea? It is more so reprogramming my mind to see this as an opportunity to learn and to get better. So when I see something new that I didn't know before, training myself to get excited by that and not to feel convicted or condemned by it. And so the thing about that, it then compounds in other areas of your life because you then become hungry to learn. You don't feel less than because you're finding out something else that you didn't know. And so it gives you the room you need to actually really expand yourself. So, I mean, look, even probably last week, something happened in the office and I had to remind myself, okay, so you got it, you could have done better. That's wonderful. It means that there is something to learn. And also when I find myself in places when I did a good job, I give myself a pat on the back. I'm learning to be my own one-man cheerleading squad.
I love that one-man cheerleading squad.
Yeah.
I think what's really important about what you said is the fact that this is a journey. You will continue to learn, you continue to get better, and reframing situations so that you look at them differently.
Correct.
And you look at them from a perspective of, I can learn from this rather than, I'm being dejected. And that will help you as you progress. And as you say, it does start to play out in all parts of your life, and you start to change perspectives on everything. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you shared a deeply personal reflection about your 30-year-old self. You had the marriage, the baby, the career, yet you felt a void in your heart. To the outsider, you had arrived. What does that void feel like when you are standing on top of the mountain? And what was the first step you took to try and fill it?
So as you're asking the question, the picture that came to my mind, or the thought that came to my mind, was, you know how they say sometimes that there's nothing worse than climbing a ladder only for you to get to the top and realize that it was the wrong wall. So I guess mine is different because those things I did actually genuinely want them. So thankfully, it wasn't like I wanted to get married and have children because it was expected. It was something I did want for myself. It's just what I thought it would give me was not what it gave me. And a lot of my conviction, and I think a lot of it also had to do with the fact that I had kind of reduced the summation of my achievements or my goals and dreams to, well, let's just work this one job and let's just have this. My family, yes, my family was great. My family is great. But I think it wasn't enough. And as I know it may sound crazy to some people, but I've gotten to the point where I'm very clear about what my goals and dreams, and I make no apologies for them.
Awesome.
So I needed more. And I had kind of partnered with the enemy to see myself as less than who I really was. And I thought that the fact that I was, living up to what society's expectations were of a woman was enough. And, you hear comments like your aunties will be saying things like, oh, you have one child. When is the next one coming? You have a second child. So it's there is always something. And because again, going back to what we said about being a first child and validation and all of that, I felt like if I was doing something that they approved of, it meant I was doing the right thing. And at that time, my relationship with God was really in a really bad place. I was so upset with him. I felt like he had broken my heart. So that's why when I said in the beginning that the most important thing to me is my relationship with God, I know what it's like for that not to be in place. And it's not it's not good for me. So I know. And so I had to start this. In fact, it took me years to even accept that there was an issue first, because I kept trying to strong arm myself and I kept trying to make it work and I kept trying to convince myself that this was enough. But with time, over and over, and as I even got into this identity deconstruction that I alluded to in the beginning, I started giving myself permission to explore the things that were genuinely of interest to me, right? To write, to speak, to encourage people, to be vulnerable, and to let people know that they're not alone in what they're doing. There's a pastor in the US. He has a church in Atlanta called Change Church. His name is Dr. Darius Daniels. He's probably top 2 preachers for me. There's something he says about how there are different ways for you to get value from what you do, and the most important one is fulfillment. And so, do I make money? Yes. Will I make money? Yes, because I offer value. And that's another thing, like learning how to negotiate, especially as a woman in this climate, and not being, look, the number is the number. You don't have to meet it. If you don't meet it, we can part ways. Yeah. Right. But to your question, right, the first step for me was accepting that there was a problem, and I had to stop running away from that, because I think deep down I knew that it was going to cost a lot for me to decide to go in a different direction, and it did cost a lot. Yeah.
Your story hit me hard at our firstborn to firstborn. we go through this whole beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
It must be us. It must be us as a problem. And confronting ourselves. I ran away from confronting myself for years. And it's just lovely to see how we transcend into self-reflective mode and understand ourselves better. And faith. So that really hit me hard. But this journey of filling that void led you to write a book. Awaken the Voice Within. I've read it. It's lovely. You mentioned you carried a specific lie for a long time. The idea that you needed external validation to be right. You said that the lie made you wait for permission that God never told you to ask for. It must be paralyzing for a leader. What was the specific truth you had to embrace to break that cycle?
So what comes to mind is there's a book I read. It's by Stephen Furtick. He pastors Elevation Church.
Okay.
The title of the book is Do the New You. And the book is broken down into 6 sections, and each section has a phrase that anchors it. And the one that comes very strongly to mind is God is in me, I am enough. And a supporting one to that would be, with God there is a way, and by faith I will find it. God is not against me. He is with me, working through me, fighting for me. And so, to your question, if there was a way for all those things to be one statements, they would really anchor what I had to believe to start that journey. And each moment I would be tempted to seek external validation, I would remember. I would literally remind myself, and I would say to myself under my breath, God is with me, I am enough. With God there is. I remember there was this particularly difficult transaction. It's probably the most difficult one I worked on, and I had to keep reminding myself, with God there is a way, and by faith I will find it. And we figured it out. And so that season is probably one of the most pivotal ones in my life, because I learned how to thrive in uncertainty. Yeah.
Just having that thought, just backing you up and helping you get through the difficult times is so reassuring.
Yeah, it is.
I think people who find themselves in this situation, their default setting would panic, fear. But, you tell yourself that God is going to find a way.
And I mean, it wasn't like those feelings didn't come, but I didn't stay there. That was not the end. It was okay. Because I've also learned how to allow myself to feel my feelings, but not allow them to dictate how I respond.
Absolutely.
You know how the Bible says, be angry and sin not. I think a lot of the time we focus on the sin not part. We don't see it validating that it's okay to feel. It says be angry. It doesn't say shove down your anger, ignore your anger, suppress. It says be angry. Absolutely. Give yourself the space to feel what you feel. And it's in doing that when you allow your body to respond and your mind, you give it the freedom and the space to because anger is information. It's like your boundaries have been violated. And so there's nothing wrong with being angry, but the problem is when you don't give yourself the space and the room to really sit with your emotions and process them and not then allow them. And when you do that, it's much easier for you to not let them dictate your actions. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. You admitted there was a chapter in your book where you were genuinely afraid to write. The story, because this one I think everybody needs to hear, because I'm sure we've all found ourselves here. Confronting an older family member. In our culture, respect for the elders is often interpreted as silence. How did you distinguish between being disrespectful and simply refusing to abandon yourself in that moment?
So I'll be honest, I didn't distinguish between the two of them. I was disrespectful. And will I say I wasn't proud of it? Because I've also learned how to give myself grace. It was a very difficult time. My mom had just died. I just found out I was pregnant. So I was kind of all over the place. We were planning a funeral. It was not a great time. So even looking back and thinking objectively about it, I understand why I reacted that way. And I have empathy for Ada that did that. but the Holy Spirit required me to apologize. Although I apologized a year later. So he was kind enough to give me the space and to birth the child before I was required. And I did it, right? I sent a message to them. You know what I said before about you getting to the point where staying the same costs more than changing? Mm-hmm. The only thing I would do different about that conversation is the way I said what I said, not what I said. I stand behind it 100%. Oftentimes in this culture, we require the most from the least of us. And so those people who are in leadership positions, even for example, the eldership, whoever they may be, see their position as one where they are served and not one where they serve. That is very upside down. That is not what Jesus preaches. And so I had to come to a point where I was very clear about what was okay and what was not, what I was willing to accept and what I was not willing to accept. And if we go back to the question you asked when I said I knew subconsciously that the reason why I was running away from the confrontation was because it would cost. I think even back then I knew that with this specific relationship we would get here because things had been brewing for years. So all that to say that it needed to happen, and my conscience is clear. And I think one thing I will add is there are safe older people. It's not every elder that is like that. I have older people in my life who have been amazing. My parents, my mom and my dad, fantastic. Yeah. Not perfect people, but fantastic parents. My parents-in-law, wonderful people. And so those are relationships that I treasure, and there is mutual understanding. I love all of them. I respect them. Even the pastors in my church, Pastor Lara, those women have kind of stepped in to be a support system, Auntie Mimi of sorts too, since my mom passed. So I've had to be very clear on what relationships needed boundaries, both elders and contemporaries, and also be okay with what I will and will not accept and tolerate, and be okay with whatever price that comes with. Yeah.
I think even what you're saying is exemplary to your younger ones. Yeah. So you earn respect by giving respect.
Correct.
It is not a badge that you just get because of your age. And now you had time to reflect on how you spoke to your elderly relative and realize, okay, I was wrong, but I've sat with this now. I understand myself and I'm going to take ownership.
Correct.
And I think that's the best we can do. But I think you're also setting the pace.
Correct. So to your point on that, I'm very careful about when I engage with older people, because the thing about me is I'm either 0 or 100. I don't know how to be in between. So it's either I really love you or God be with you. So I try to be very careful. You can kind of sense when people respect and recognition of their position is very important to them. I just I back away all the way. But where there is genuine love and connection, you don't even have to.
There's no forcing.
There's no forcing it. That respect is my pleasure to give.
Yes. And it's really good that you understand how to read the room.
Correct.
And your emotional intelligence will help you understand this is this type of person.
Just please.
But the connections are more solid with
they're
those.
more authentic.
Exactly.
There is no pretending here. I don't know how to do that. Yeah.
That's awesome. You spoke beautifully of how your father's active presence anchored you and set a standard for love without manipulation. We often hear about daddy issues in the negative sense. How does having the secure male figure early in life influence how you deal with male authority figures in the boardroom today? And do you find you are less easily intimidated?
Oh, 1000%. Speaking up was never my problem. I had to learn when to speak up and when not to speak up, which is why when I tell you that first financial institution that I worked for a few months, I knew it wasn't going to work. It was precisely that reason. I said if I work here for 2 more weeks, these people are going to sack me because I will say something. So I've always been a little spicy.
Spicy is good.
Yeah. So, and that was definitely down to my dad. My dad is my guy. Aww. Like, you know, I remember when I was doing my first degree and I was struggling at school, and he said, Dobby, because that's what they call me in my family, said, Dobby, don't just pass through the university. Let the university pass through you. I didn't understand what he meant. But even looking back, thinking about the fact that, look, my dad is 70, so he's not a youngin'. My dad and I can sit here and be gisting about Beyonce and Kendrick Lamar. Like, that's how, with the times he is, right? He's a cool guy. And my dad was present. He was at home. He didn't feel like his obligations and his responsibilities to us as his children ended with paying school fees. He came for visiting days. I went to school in Abuja. He was at least one visiting day every term. I have friends whose fathers came twice, their first day and their last day. In 6 years, I kid you not. So when you have, and my dad, he nurtured my curiosity. So whenever I would ask him a question, most times he wouldn't answer. He would tell me to go and find out for myself. And so what that taught me was how to take ownership for my own learning. And it's probably why I'm really into like books and podcasts and self-help material. I'm not really depending on anybody to teach me or to show me the way, so to speak. And even in love, right? My dad and my husband are very similar in many ways. So if the adage that you marry your dad in some shape or form is true, then I was very blessed, because the kind of support I had as a child in my father's house, I have with my husband in our home, if not even better, right? Because that's a whole other relationship. So I think, especially for a woman in today's world, one of the key determining factors, I believe, of a girl's outcome is the relationship she has with her father. Because if I can talk to my dad about this, who are you? And so if we're in the boardroom and what you're saying, I mean, I needed to learn how to be more emotionally aware and more be able to read the room. So it's more about, communication is more so how you say what you say than what you say. But that I will not say no now. Yeah. I will say. Yeah. I've been in situations where we're in town hall in one of my organizations, and I was pushing back at something someone was saying in the leadership team. And someone kept pinching my leg. Ada, it's okay. So that's never really been a problem.
Yeah, I think that's so important that you could see there's no sort of like gap between how you relate to a woman and how you relate to a man or a male figure. You just understand we're having a conversation. I have this to say, rather than having this reverence that's insane where you can't speak up.
No.
So that your dad was very helpful with that. Yeah. I love the fact that your dad knows Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, he does. He actually tells me what's going on. He'd be like, oh, Dobby, did you know that Beyonce was in Coachella? I'm like, no, what? Daddy, I didn't know that.
Love that. Please.
Like, yeah, or that, Dobby, do you know Beyonce has a new album? I was like, oh, really? Great.
Cool, Dad.
Yeah.
We can see the fruits of the awakening your voice in how you handle conflict now. You told a story about a recent service delivery failure when you didn't apologize or raise your voice, but simply stated what had happened. You identified this as a sign of healing. Why do you think it's so hard for women, especially Nigerian women, to complain about feeling the need to soften the blow?
We're trained. That's how we're trained from day one. Like, oh, are you going to do this in your husband's house? Oh, you don't know that you're a woman. Oh, don't you know? And so the word woman became synonymous with compliance. It became synonymous with not being risky, not exploring, even, and that shows up in risk appetite for even trying new things. That kind of thinking, it doesn't stay where you put it, right? So you train a woman to not take risks, to take the well-beaten path, just get good grades, go to school, marry, have children. And so that desire or that curiosity to do something more or to, start a business, explore your creativity, not necessarily have the path figured out 3, 5, 10 years from now, it seems so scary, right? So to your point on why we just feel like we should be silent and we should shrink ourselves is because that's how we were trained. And it takes courage, it takes audacity and boldness for you to decide that you're going to buck the trend, you're going to live out the life that you want in line with the person that God created you to be, and whoever feels however they feel about it is free. In fact, they are fully entitled to their opinions. It's just that their opinion is none of your business. Yeah. So we're trained into it. And can I say that's why I love Gen Z? Oh my gosh. Oh, I love them so. Like, I think millennials give them a bad rap for the most part. I'm a millennial myself. And when I hear some of the things that people are saying, I'm like, but you do realize that the Gen Xers said the same thing about us when we were at their age. So is your memory so short, right? So I love them because, at least the ones I have encountered, they're very clear on their why. They don't just do because they said they should do. In fact, my daughter is Gen Alpha. And she asks, Mommy, why? And I have to think and say why. Obviously, there's sometimes when she's just taking the mic and I'm like, because I said so. But that's not all the time. That's not most of the time. So this desire to live from a place of purpose and alignment is revolutionary.
Yes.
And I think that us women in other generations, we have a lot we can learn from them if we open ourselves up. Yeah.
So speaking as a Gen X myself, the Gen Zs are debucking the trend, and I firmly believe and perceive that generational way of Nigerian women doing things in a silent way or in ways that show like complete submission to the circumstances is going to change.
100%.
And it's starting already.
Correct.
And we're seeing a lot of women stepping out.
Yeah.
And this word audacity is becoming more and more lived through. And so it's something to watch.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. Yeah.
Okay, so this brings us to today.
Yeah.
Your new role as the executive director carries a senior responsibility for strategy, execution, and growth. In your previous life, success was often defined by the size of the deal. How has your definition of success changed now that you are responsible for people and the vision of an entire organization, not just the financial outcomes of a transaction?
So I will say that over, I'd say, the past 3 years thereabouts, when I talk about this whole identity deconstruction and reconstruction that I went through, it changed everything. It changed my philosophy on work. It changed my philosophy on life. And I believe that we back solve for a financial outcome. And I feel like the financial outcome should not be the beginning. The financial outcome should be the end. The beginning is the people. If my dream for my team is to create an environment in a financial services company where people want to come to work, where work in many ways is a solace from whatever it is that's going on outside, because we don't know the weight of the burden that people carry every day. And so what that means is I want to create an environment where people feel seen, where they feel heard, where they feel appreciated. Now, in order for me, that is what I want in terms of a people outcome. Now, what are the things that then inform the context where that is possible. I have to be very picky about the people I have on my team.
Right.
Because with the wrong people, for the most part, in that environment, they will take advantage of it. And when if they take advantage of it and you're trying to make this company what it is not, similar to how I was having the tension between trying to make myself to be someone I was not, because I wanted to be taken seriously as a leader, right, so to speak, it doesn't work. And then you start to create the environments that you didn't want in the first place. So I'm very clear on the kind of people that can work for me and that I can work with. You have to have a very strong work ethic. Yeah. You have to be very hungry. Like, I'm not the kind of person that would and again, I make no apologies for it, because there is a place for everybody somewhere. It's just that your place is not here, right?
Right.
You have to have a very strong work ethic. You have to have hunger and drive and ambition. I would actually rather work with someone who tells me that they want to transition out of this role in 2 years than to work with someone because they want something more for themselves, than to work with someone who just wants to coast through life. Even though I have an assurance of you being here for a long period of time, we will irritate each other. That's because the person I was 6 months ago is not the person I am today. So because I am that kind of person who is hungry, who has drive, who is unapologetically ambitious, it will not work for me to have people who do not see life that way. So that speaks to the makeup and the character traits of the kind of person it makes sense for me to work for. And so for me, when you get those kinds of people and you put them in an environment where they come to work, you're going to make crap loads of money. So, I mean, do I have a budget? Yes. We're meeting the target 1,000%, because the people equation and the environment equation, we are very focused on getting that right. And the financial outcome, when you do the people equation plus, in fact, I may put this in my next book, which I am working on. So the people equation and the environment equation equals money, money, money.
100.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It is about the people.
Yeah.
It's never about the strategies. The strategy people will eat strategy for breakfast.
1,000%.
And I'm talking about good people will kill it. They would thrive and they would bring the business.
Lisa, I cannot tell you the number of strategy sessions I have been in. One of my earliest jobs was, as a business analyst, was organizing strategy sessions. Strategy sessions, for the most part, are an academic exercise in futility. So what did you do last year? Add 10%, add 50%.
Yeah.
We've done this so many times, and more often than not, we pay lip service to people. That is the most important thing. And if we don't get that right, I mean, can we really say that we're building a sustainable business? Yeah.
And you said something which touched me as well, about people can see work as a place of solace. They could be going through life and they come to work and there's a completely different environment where they can start to be themselves again and thrive and feel happy.
That was my experience. When my mom died on a Saturday, early hours of a Sunday morning. I was in the office on Monday. My friends thought I was crazy.
Wow.
But that's just to show you the kind of environment I was in, because I needed to do something. If not, I would have lost my mind. And work was a safe space for me to come and do something. So I know what it is to be in a place that you want to be in, and with people that you can trust they have your back.
Yeah.
And you guys are making money. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Ada, you wrote this book for the 15-year-old you, the 22-year-old you, and the 50-year-old you hope to become.
God help us.
If the 50-year-old Ada could walk into this room right now and look at the Ada sitting in that chair, what is the thing that she would thank her for doing today that has made her life easier?
Chai. So it's not, I won't say one thing, I'll say two things.
It's okay.
The first thank you would be for not running away. For going through the rigor, and I don't know why this is making me emotional, but for going through the rigor of deconstructing who I thought I was and who I thought I was supposed to be, and walking down this path of self-discovery with God and making the tough decisions to stop certain things and end certain relationships so that I could hear myself enough to be. I wouldn't be here across from you today if I hadn't made that change. And then the second thing was she would say thank you for making the decision to die empty.
Wow.
When my mom died, before she passed, one of the things that she said to me was that if God gave her more time, she would write and she would speak. And so I wrote in the book that when I do this for the two of us. And my prayer, my hope is that one day, hopefully many decades from now, when my children are grown, when my husband and I are old, and God willing, he gives me the privilege of time to be on my deathbed, that I will be happy. And I believe it's possible, and that I will be happy because I had nothing left to give. And that I'm going home having done what he sent me here to do. Yeah.
That is so profound, Ada. And I really appreciate everything you said, and I'm sure our listeners would too. Your journey has been such a roadmap. A lot of people who are going through difficult times and trying to understand why they're stuck. This book, this wonderful book, Awakening the Voice Within, is like a recipe and a remedy for anyone going through a difficult change and are stuck and realizing that they're stuck. So I want to say a huge thank you, Ada, today for your time, for coming in and being our guest. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Lolita. This was fun on so many levels, and it was a nice walk down memory lane and down the journey, because I wrote the book. I finished writing it probably, I want to say July, so it's been a while. This has kind of helped to give me a good reminder of why I wrote it in the first place. So Thank you for having me today. It was my pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. A lot of lives are going to change because of you, Ada. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lolita.
Guys, I don't know about you, but I feel Ada has just laid it all out there on a plate. Her life has been a series of events, but it's all led her up to this moment. It's shaped her from the love from her father, the loss of her mother, and the difficult time she experienced that brought out her strength, which she had to learn to refine along the way. Those strengths are now what make Ada the leader she is today. So for you listeners out there, don't look back at your challenges or your past with resentment, because all of them are building you up to the person you're meant to be. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today on the We Win podcast. I hope you have time to reflect this week on what we've just heard, and I also hope you have a great day. Thank you.